Hello everyone, Dimitrios here and welcome back to episode 2 of how to build your Apple HomeKit Smart Home. This week we'll be looking at how to plan your smart home. Okay, so where do we begin with planning? Depending on where you live, whether it's a house or apartment, it's all going to be very similar. Obviously, the amount of products or devices will increase the larger your apartment or home. But it doesn't mean you have to spend everything right away. With some people, it may be helpful to have something visual, so just maybe do a rough drawing of your floor plan. Just a rough sketch is all you need. Just locate where outlets are, where your internet line is. Do you need to do any cable management? How are you going to hide any cables? Because you don't really want to have exposed cables. Check your internet connection. Where is the line coming in? For instance, my situation, my home entertainment system has a lot of devices there, and too many wireless connections can cause interference. So what I did is I just ran like a 60-foot Ethernet cable around my baseboards, and then I plugged it into a home network switch, and then that is all hardwired into all my devices. Now, the one thing that I've learned recently is that you can have more than one hub, depending where you are in the room. Let's say you have HomePod Minis all over the house. If you're in your bedroom and you told it to switch off the lights, you don't have to specify turn off bedroom lights. It will just turn off the bedroom lights because that's where you're situated. In my case, because I only have one hub, I specify which lights I want turned on and off. And lastly, with your plan, just how much do you want to spend from the outset? Not just the devices that you need, accessories as well. Do you need cable extensions? Do you need power bars, Ethernet cables? And if you're building a home, it might be beneficial to include the Ethernet cables within the walls before the drywall goes up. And that way you can avoid all the cable management. Now that you've listed all the devices pretty much in where you want in your home. So let's say in my example here, I have my TV area. So I'm gonna have some LEDs, a smart TV, my hub, the light switch will be over here because that's where it's located. And there's some other light switches here. My internet line will come here, and I'm running a cable all the way across here. And this is where I would like to have all smart devices. And you could just tick it off as you go. Now you have a visual plan. Compile an actual list of all the devices, so cameras, light switches, light bulbs, etc. Write down the cost, the brand. So maybe an Excel sheet might be helpful, because then you can edit it really quickly. And then tally that cost up. Then what you should start doing is prioritizing what problem do you need solving first. Like I said in my episode 1, the first issue that I had was controlling bedroom light. So that was the first devices that I wanted to install in my home. And I didn't have a hub then. And then just to add, when you are looking at all your devices and you're comparing different brands, for instance, with security cameras, don't just pick the one that has all the best features of that particular brand. When I was searching for my camera, which isn't HomeKit compatible because at the time there wasn't one, so I opted for Wise. And the reason I opted for that over Ring, Nest, and the rest of them was the operating temperature. Living in Canada, it gets cold, there are extreme temperatures. What good is it if you're having a security camera and its main function is to provide security and it stops working the minute it goes past a certain temperature? So if it stops working at -10, what good is it to you? Check the operating specs and make sure they can perform within that range. Spending time reading Amazon reviews is helpful. If you have a question, type that question into Amazon because that really does help answer some questions. And if there isn't, post it and then hopefully someone will get back to you. Another thing to consider is, can you install these devices yourself? Now, generally, smart home devices are really easy. If you're not comfortable doing basic electrical work, just stop there and contact a professional. And that, when I say professional, a licensed electrician, someone who can change that light switch. Yes, there will be an added cost. Electricians do charge a lot, but at the end of the day, it comes down to installing that device correctly and not causing harm to yourself. Because if you do not install that device correctly and it causes a fire or malfunctions, not only do you have to call them out to fix that issue, but you can also negate your insurance if something goes wrong. YouTube is meant to be visual, that's how I learn, and I know people will appreciate that. So let's do a house tour, shall we? First problem solved, that's just an IKEA lamp with 2 smart Wi-Fi bulbs. We will cover them in the later episodes on how to install. Bell fiber internet comes in through here. That's what the Bell engineer done. So Bell pay attention. My landlord wasn't happy with that. And what I've done is he ran the cable across the ceiling because that was the best place instead of coming round down the floor where it's going to be a tripping hazard. So again, this is what I mean by planning. So thinking where the wires go. And this is the wise cams that I have set up. So I did this myself. I bought a plate cover, and this is just basically, you know, those pads that you use for the end of your tables and chairs. So that covers preventing things coming in. And I followed the wire round. And then we come to the bottom. This is the Bell Home Hub. So obviously this is the main one. This is the Lutron hub that I have connected to it. So this is required in order to control the light switches, but you do not need to use the Lutron app. You only need to use it for setup, but we'll cover that in later episodes. So again, this is hardwired into the back of the router. Okay, so this is the internet line that comes to the back there. So excuse the shoes and the mess. And then you follow it all the way. A cable with those clips won't cost you much. The cable was really cheap as well. If you look on, I will put a link again in Amazon, but that was like a 60-foot cable, which is more than enough that what I need. And then I purchased a TP-Link network switch, which will allow me to hardwire everything that I have behind. The cable comes all the way through and plugs into this 8-port network switch. Obviously, it depends how many devices you have. This was more than sufficient for me. The LEDs I have were actually repurposed. I do need a remote to change colors, for instance, and gradients, and you can do a lot with this. The smart plug is connected to the LEDs. A lot of people do put their TVs on the wall. I didn't. I chose to have this unit, which gave me storage options and also a ability to hide cables. Outside porch light, there was no way to turn it on or off automatically. The actual fixture was enclosed, so there's no way to disassemble it or change the LED or light bulb inside. So I was thinking to myself, how can I turn this light on automatically as soon as it gets dark, or put it on some sort of timer? So then I thought about changing the switch. And after adding the Miros light switch, all I did was added that to HomeKit. And then within HomeKit, you can then automate and tell it at sunset, turn light on, and at a certain point at night, turn it off. Now, lastly, I wanted to be able to control the lights in my apartment. I only changed some of them. Again, it just comes down to financial constraints. Changing each light switch does add up. Easy to install. They have several options available. And Lutron's DIY, they have not only paperwork, but they also have videos as well. And depending on your wiring, the different types of wiring, wherever you're located, they have options for those too. Now, I actually wish I bought this device earlier. So I actually didn't have a hub for a long time. I couldn't control lights when I was away from home. But I did have some functionality without a hub. I do recommend it as one of the first things you buy, because having that ability of controlling lights when you're away from home and the geofencing is really, really handy. The Apple TV, HomePod Mini, those are the devices available to act as a hub, or an iPad as well. I chose Apple TV only because I would benefit out of that the most. It has all your streaming services, music, it syncs with your Apple ID, so you can look at your photos. It's just so good. And the best thing is, my TV, even though it's old, does have compatibility with CEC, I believe the function is, which means I can just use this remote. This is the only remote I need to turn on the TV, turn off the TV. Okay, so we've reached the end of episode 2. That was probably a lot of information. Do your final comparison for the products that you want to buy. Start off with solving the problems that you currently have. Normally that is lighting, and those are pretty easy to solve with either plugs, switches, or light bulbs. In episode 3, we're going to talk about the hub, whether that's the Apple TV or the HomePod Mini, and just how that functions, especially with the automations and geofencing. So that's what we're going to cover in episode 3. Remember that all the products that I have and the ones I recommend, I will list down below so you can check those out. And importantly, if you do have any questions about your smart home or you need help setting up, I'm here to help. So add a comment down below, reach out. I'll be glad to help you out. Thank you all for watching. My name is Dimitrios. If you enjoyed this video and found it informative, remember to give this video a like, subscribe to my channel for future content, and remember to hit that notification bell. And I'll see you all next week in episode 3. Peace.